Hello, and welcome to Go Fund This, a podcast from Nerds Domain. In these episodes, we'll be talking to crowdfund project managers about their projects and what excites them. Come listen as we talk about the passion they have for their project. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Go Fund This. I'm Matt, and this week I'm joined by Dabney Bailey from the Tavern Tales RPG. Say hi, Dabney.
Hi, how you doing?
So, Dabney, you have an RPG up on Kickstarter right now. The focus of it is storytelling and the mechanics of that. But before we get into that specific thing, there are a couple of standard questions that we ask everybody to kind of establish who they are. Sure. So just bear with me for these, and we'll see how you do.
All right.
So the first question is, in the impending zombie apocalypse, what is your weapon of choice?
I think probably the one item that I would probably want to get before anything else would be a good pair of shoes, which is not really a weapon, I realize, but I think that
keeps you alive.
Yeah, I think that sort of represents my philosophy with zombies, is that if I'm fighting them, I'm in too much trouble anyways. So my solution is get a good pair of running shoes and just you see movies and they're inside and they're zombies, what do we do? And if they're in their bathrobes, then they're pretty much screwed. So they need to get a decent pair of shoes on ASAP and a winter coat, I think.
Okay. All right, that's fair. All right, second question. Given all of the sci-fi that you know, what planet do you most want to visit?
Well, I'll be trendy and say Planet X. Have you heard about that today?
No, I must have missed the news today.
Oh yeah, they think they discovered a new planet today, and the internet's kind of going crazy over it.
Oh wow, a Neptune-sized planet beyond Pluto. How do we miss that?
Well, I don't know. I was reading about it. It's something like 9 times the distance of Neptune from the sun away. So it's,
oh wow.
Yeah, it's super far. They're kind of trying to verify it with math and see if these people are right. But yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, so we'll get into your Kickstarter project. So kind of tell us what Tavern Tales is all about and what brought you to doing the project.
Sure. Well, excuse me. Tavern Tales is a fantasy-themed role-playing game that emphasizes, above everything else, customization and cinematic storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I got into it is, as a gamer, really there's 2 archetypes I love to play more than anything else, and those are the sword mage, sort of wizard / fighter hybrid, and the monk. And a lot of games and systems don't really accommodate that super well. I'm seeing goes for video games even. So a lot of times I'll pick up a new game, and I'll get kind of frustrated that my hopes and aspirations about what I'd like to play don't always line up with what the designers will let me play. So that sort of snowballed into me just tinkering with role-playing game mechanics and sort of thinking, obviously the designers have to present something to the players to use when they play their game, but how can people do that in such a way that it liberates them and lets them play what they want rather than telling them what they have to play? And so that sort of led into the very early stages of Tavern Tales, where I just tried to build the system that I wanted to play, that let me play the characters that I wanted to play and do what I wanted to do.
Okay, so this is about customization, but also it's a cinematic game, so it's going to be about the tale, the story that's being woven along with it, correct?
Yeah, I sort of try to avoid, in general, numbers. I mean, you kind of have to have numbers on some level in games, because otherwise you have no way to determine, who succeeds, who wins, what happens. But outside of the stats, I've got a brawn stat and a finesse stat. Outside of those, the game has virtually no numbers because I've worked very hard to avoid that. And the result is that instead of effects that are like you deal plus damage, you have effects where it's like you freeze someone in ice or you teleport, which are
Okay.
more flashy and something that you can imagine happening in your head. So I tend to think of RPGs as being like a movie that everyone's imagining collectively. And when you say, I pick up the table and throw it at them, everyone can imagine that. But if someone says, give me a reflex save with a +5 bonus, it's not really something you can see with your mind's eye. So I want effects that you can see with your mind's eye.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's hard to imagine +1 damage on something. Definitely understand that. So you say it's fantasy based. Is it fantasy rooted very heavily in fantasy, or does it have a potential for more than just our standard fantasy story type?
Well, the key sort of character building option is there are, I think, 19 different themes which group together effects around common archetypes. Like there's an arcane theme which has things like teleporting and throwing explosive blasts of energy and dispelling magics. And there will be there's a thievery theme which is about stealth and backstabbing. So things are generally organized where you'd expect them to be, but since you can sort of mix and match wherever you want, the game kind of by its nature encourages you to define your own character. Like, for example, you could really easily build someone like Boba Fett in the system, because, I mean, he's got, a grappling hook and jetpack and a flamethrower, and each of those individual components you can select in the character building and sort of piece them together. And if you wanted to flavor that as like a guy in magical armor with wings and a flamethrower, you could really easily do that. So it's pretty easily adaptable to multiple systems.
Excellent. Okay, cool. So, the Kickstarter's been going on for a few days, correct?
Correct.
And you're at about quarter of your goal. How do you feel about your progress there? Do you feel like it's moving along properly?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The Kickstarter has been not what I expected. It's been given me a lot of anxiety. Like, I sort of wasn't feeling any, concern about the Kickstarter. I was generally optimistic about it. But like the second I hit the launch button, I was like, oh man, this is really happening. And the Kickstarter is going at a decent pace. I'm about 25% of the way there, which is pretty good in the first 3 days. So I think I've got a pretty good chance of being funded. But man, it's a stressful process. I wasn't expecting it to be this much work and this much like tension on a daily basis.
Yeah, it is a different kind of feeling altogether. So it looks like you've got several levels. So the first couple are the first one where you get actual product is going to be at $20. That's going to give you the PDF and any of the digital stretch goals that get met. Why don't you tell us a little about the stretch goals and what we're looking at there?
All right. So the stretch goals are, first we've got the heritage theme, and the game sort of enables a lot of your classic fantasy archetypes like wizards and barbarians and mages, but it doesn't have anything relating necessarily to race. There's a couple of themes that relate to more like the animal side of things. Like there's an undeath theme if you want to play a vampire or a zombie, and there's a dragon theme and a beast theme if you want to be like a werewolf or something. But since I kind of wanted the system to be inherently setting neutral, I don't have any mechanics based around like the archetypical dwarves or archetypical elves. So the heritage theme would give options that allow players to build like a classic Tolkienian elf, or it also would have things like personal wealth or if you want to play the game as a member of nobility, that would give you options for that. The next after that is the adventure module. Back when I launched Tavern Tales about 2 years ago, I published a adventure module called the Artelberg Gauntlet, which was actually the very first game I ever played of Tavern Tales, even before it went live with my own personal gaming group. And it's based around this sort of a citywide festival where the townspeople, in order to honor adventurers who saved them many centuries ago, they hold a big festival where everyone creates little like games for adventurers to participate in, like a race or like a riddle contest, or like there's a part where they reenact a murder scene in an inn, and they have to investigate what's going on and who the actual murderer is. So I felt like that's a good way for people who are both new to the system to explore the game and explore their characters in a sort of like low stress situation where there won't be enormous consequences for messing up, because there's no threat of dying.
Mm-hmm.
The next two goals after that are magic items and adding monsters, locations, and events.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, after that, I'm getting a theme art package at 50,000. And I've got a couple other ideas, but I would have to, get further down the statistical path for that to be relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with the $20 PDF book, that's going to include all the rules that you would need to run the game, or to make a character and play in the game, and also everything you would need to run the game as well, correct?
Yeah, the PDF is going to be completely identical to the book, with the exception that it's just going to be digital instead of paper.
Okay, so it will cover everything you would normally find in a player's handbook and a Dungeon Master guide for something like D&D or something along those lines.
Yeah, the layout has the first part's the rules, followed by the character creation options. Then there's a bunch of items and magic items. Then there's like encounters for each of the three categories: combat, exploration, and interaction. And then after that, I want to add something a little more focused to the DM, which I haven't written yet.
Okay, and it looks like you do have your playtest PDF rules already available for download, so that before people back, they can get an idea of where at least you're starting, because as we all know, playtest rules tend to change some as they're implemented. Was there any specific level within the rewards that you'd like to highlight there?
Let me see. I think one thing I'm offering that you don't see a lot of RPG Kickstarters offering is at the $80 mark, you get the PDF, the book, and you also get the source files. I think that the RPG hobby is a little bit unique in that it really encourages everyone who participates in it to sort of break open the pieces and fiddle with it. I feel like probably more than half of all RPG players are kind of homebrewers because they make their own classes, or even being a GM kind of requires you to be creative. So if there are any players out there who like creating their own games or tinkering with the rules, the source files will let you access the actual Tavern Tales InDesign file, and you can add your own theme, delete rules you don't like, and print it out for your friends. So it's completely hackable. Same thing goes for the art files. If there are any like aspiring fantasy artists out there, then you'll have the original Photoshop files that you can muck with and replicate to your heart's content.
Excellent. All right, so Tavern Tales is going well, and after this, do you have any other plans for anything else, or are you just going to focus on kind of bringing Tavern Tales out a little more and expanding on that?
Well, I'm I'm the type of person who has to have a project. I mean, if I didn't have Tavern Tales to work on, I would go stir crazy. So there is 100% chance that after Tavern Tales, I will work on something. Whether it will be related to RPGs, whether it'll be public, is still up in the air. But I do know that if the game does well, if it gets popular, and if there's enough demand for it, I am considering pursuing a sci-fi expansion for just increasing the accessibility for players. But beyond that, I mean, I kind of wanted to design a board game, but I typically do that and just like make a board game, play it a few times with my friends, and then never bring it to the public. Tavern Tales is the first game where I decided that I felt like it was good enough that I could actually put it before the public's eye and develop it over a long term. So we'll see what happens after this.
All right. Well, as far as where you'll be promoting this, even after the Kickstarter, are you headed to any convention where we'll be able to see you or interact with you and get to play Tavern Tales with you?
I am not planning any convention visits during the campaign. However, if it gets funded, I absolutely want to go to conventions. That's crossing my fingers. If it gets funded, I'll definitely see you around.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, Tavern Tales is a nice, fresh look at how to interact with a game, and I like that. I like the customability. Personally, I am going to be backing this, as I'm sure most of our listeners are aware. This is the part where I tell everybody they should back it, because I already have. And if you've learned anything from me already, is I'll back just about anything. No, I back what I find is unique and interesting, and I think there's a lot here that is great. And definitely something that will benefit role players and storytellers on both ends of the screen. So I highly suggest people check it out. And we can follow you over on Twitter at Tavern Tales RPG, Facebook.com Tavern Tales RPG, and then TavernTalesRPG.com. All those are correct, right?
Yeah. I'd like to add one quick plug here.
Sure.
Since this is my first game and I don't really have much of a reputation, I've been working really diligently at sort of establishing myself and building a reputation among my community. So to that end, I created the Tavern Tales subreddit /r/Tavern Tales. So that's probably where most of the big news comes and where most of my fans are. I personally read every post, and the community's heavily involved in polishing the rules and giving suggestions, and a lot of things that are in the book actually came directly from fan suggestions. So if anyone is interested in more of the back-end design process, they like to see rules evolve and systems change towards their final version, I highly recommend you check out the subreddit. We'd love to have you.
Excellent. That's fantastic. I didn't see that when I was looking at all this. But yeah, you can check it all out there. And if you want to go straight to the Tavern Tales Kickstarter, just go to tinyurl.com/TavernTalesKick, and that'll take you right there and get you right deep in the muck of it. So, Dabney, was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we kind of wrapped it up?
No, I don't want to keep you too long, other than to say, check the game out. It's free. The rules will always be free because I believe that this industry runs on passion, not money. So if you want to pledge, please do. But if you don't, if you just want to check out the game, then that's fine too. The rules will be up forever.
All right. Well, thank you for being our guest here, and as always, to our listeners, we will talk to you guys real soon.
And that'll do us tonight for Go Fund This, a podcast from Nerds Domain. Remember, you can email us at nerdsdomain@gmail.com or find us on facebook.com/nerdsdomain, on Twitter @nerdsdomain, or over at our site at nerdsdom.com. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter while you're there. You can head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. We want to thank Jarby McCoy for our music. Don't forget, you can support us at patreon.com/nerdsdomain and check out our shirts at slashloot.com.